What's up, guys? Paul Churchill with the Recovery Elevator Podcast. I want to talk to you guys about a concept when it comes to getting sober that's extremely important. I'm going to put this at like a level 9.2 out of 10, right? This is extremely important. So I often get texts, I get Facebook messages, I get emails from friends, family, 1, 2, 3 degrees of separation from people saying, hey, I want to quit drinking. Do you have any advice? And this is it. It might be no. It's probably time to burn the ships. But before I go any further, let me share an anecdote with you that happens to be true. Okay. In 1519, this badass named Hernán Cortés from España sailed from Cuba to Veracruz, Mexico. He landed with 500 soldiers, 100 sailors, 60 horses, and 13 ships. Guess what the first 3 words he said when he summoned all of his soldiers onto the sand? He said, burn the ships. Then he dropped his sword and walked away. I assume that's the modern day mic drop. I don't know. So Hernán Cortés' mission, his only mission, was to defeat the Aztec Empire in Mexico. Now, this Aztec Empire, it had the world's greatest richness of gold, of copper, of treasures, of jewels, whatever. And there was no question about this because army after army had tried to seize this treasure for hundreds of years, for 600 years, but no one was able to do it until Hernán Cortés. He knew that the only way that they were to go back to Spain was victorious, and the only way they're going to go back to Spain was in their ships. So he burned the ships. I mean, those ships, back then, that's probably like billions of dollars of boats. I don't know the exact price of a big boat, a big sailing ship, but yeah, that probably had to ruffle some feathers with Ferdinand and Isabella. I'm not sure if the timeline matches up there, but you get the point. So for many people, the answer to what's holding us back in life isn't evidently clear. For the majority of us, and perhaps if you're watching this video, the answer is clear, and that's the good news. It's alcohol. And I tried everything before I finally used this approach to burn the ships, right? When I mean everything, I tried to go about it alone. And then, I slowly brought one other person on the conversation, maybe a doctor, a physician, but until I was finally ready to burn the ships. Now, this is a metaphor of telling everybody around you. So that's what this means. Burning the ships means completely coming out to everybody in your life who's close to you, your friends, your family, your doctors, your physicians, your employers. But it's most importantly, it's got to be like your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your best friends, your neighbor. You got to have these difficult conversations. You can't unsay these conversations to people. You can't go out to your neighbor and say, hey, Rick, that conversation we had last week about how, I'm usually at home drinking alone by myself, and then sometimes I drive drunk to the grocery store, liquor store to get more alcohol, and I come home. And then when I throw the bottles away, I make sure you're not outside doing yard work. Yeah, I was just joking with you, Rick. Like, none of that stuff is true. You can't unhave those conversations. And there's no coincidence. With myself in my sobriety time, I started burning the ships, metaphorically. Actually, I was on a houseboat in Lake Powell in southern Utah when I started burning the ships. Fortunately, I was not drunk enough in my blackout during that trip that I didn't burn the actual ships. But I told my parents, it was like 6:50 in the morning. I woke them up and I started metaphorically burning the ships. I later told my brother, like 2 days later on the same trip, of how serious my drinking problem was. And then later on that summer, I came out to my 7 best friends, which just happened to be at my fantasy league football draft. I came out to my employer. I came out to my doctor, to my physicians. And guess what? On September 7th, 2014, that was my sobriety date. There's no coincidence. I had to burn the ships. I had no way of retreating back to my old life. I knew in my heart I was on a journey to Paul 2.0, right? And I wasn't gonna go back to Paul 1.0. I couldn't, because that was not an option either, right? That way of life was killing me. The only way I can move forward to go on this journey to Paul 2.0 was by burning the ships.